is we're going to go to the last part of the class today, and then that will be it for today. So we definitely will be getting out early today. Is I'm just going to go over sort of the idea of how to get C4D, how to get it running on your machine, and sort of, the general process that you'll take. So Cinema 4D, it works on Mac and PC. Don't know about Linux, or at least not all the different flavors of Linux. So PC or Mac will be what you'll be using for Cinema 4D for this class at least. But we're going to go over your homework, which is to just get Cinema 4D installed and to be able to send me a file from Cinema 4D. I'm going to explain what that means in more detail here, but just so that everyone is aware of, and I am going to be recording this, so if you don't catch everything, or if your internet drops out, or if you lose power or anything like that, you will be able to watch this again later on. I will send a link to the YouTube playlist, but just to go over how to get Cinema 4D. So to start off, you're going to make sure that you create a Maxon account on the Maxon website. So the program that we use is Maxon Cinema 4D. The company is based out of Germany originally, just as a note there. But on the Maxon website, you are going to have to create an account. So if you don't have an account, please go there and create an account. I would suggest using your student email, just so that you can keep everything together, especially since you'll have to do another step in order to get the license for Cinema 4D. So I suggest using your student email, just as a point of reference there. But what you're actually going to have to do is to actually download Cinema 4D from the site there, and then that's what you're going to actually do in order to install it. Now, the thing to keep in mind is when you get to the downloads here, you're actually going to have a couple different options for downloading, and I will go into detail on which way is better, but just so you know that on this website is where you will be downloading Cinema 4D, and you will have to have an account. You can actually download it without actually having a license yet, because you can actually get a trial for this. So if for some reason, and I'll explain on the next step, your license doesn't go through really fast, or you do get delayed, you will have I think it's 30 days to actually use the program before you actually have to have a license, or maybe it's 7 or 14. But yes, Jonathan. Yep. You shouldn't have to, but we'll explain that in more detail. So if you get After Effects, and this goes for anybody in this class, even if you already have it, you actually have Cinema 4D already on your computer. After Effects actually comes with a light version of Cinema 4D that you can use. Not for this class, because eventually we will go on things beyond the version that comes with After Effects. But it does actually come with C4D does come with After Effects, but the versions that we're going to use for this class will have the full tool set of the class. So if you do already have it and it does give you something like that, you should be okay. You still have to go through the process that I'm going to explain here, where you have to download Cinema 4D and install it directly. But you should be okay if you do already have it. So you should just be able to override or ignore most of those plugins. But again, if anyone throughout the semester has any issues with the program working, or something feels off, just shoot me an email, shoot me a text or something like that, and I will get back to you as soon as I can with hopefully a way to resolve it, or at least point you in the right direction of how to resolve it. But thank you for bringing that up. So that's where you're going to go to actually get the site. Now, to actually register for the license, there is another website called On the Hub, and this is the site where you will actually have to pay the service fee of $2.99 for the student license. And as it says here, it'll last for 6 months, which should be most of this semester, or it should be all of this semester, and even longer. And you can keep doing this as much as you need to use the program over and over again. So, as long as you have your student ID, or student, whatever, I guess enrollment, you should be able to use this program. And this is the full version of the program. So some of you I know have already done this. So, if you've done this already, great. But if you haven't, on this site, you're actually going to have to register, or if you already have an account, sign in as a student. And you can try to put your email in here, and sometimes it seems to register, but other times it doesn't. And if it doesn't register, you just have to go down here and say, I don't have a school issued email address. And then in here, you're going to have to put in sort of your information that shows that you're a student. So it'll be sort of, your student ID or your enrollment in this class, and you can hide any sort of personal information that you do need to. But yeah, so this is where you go to actually register to actually get the license. And the whole idea here is that this email that you use will actually sync up with what you use on the Maxon site. So that's why I'm saying to use the same email address, specifically your student email address, between both the locations. So that it knows that you have a student license and that you can use C4D. Yes. Yeah, so technically you're not buying the program, you're buying the license, the service fee in order to use the program, because the license itself is free. But this site where they process everything through requires you to use the service fee. But yeah, so you will have to create an account with both of these sites and then add this to your cart and pay the service fee, and then you can just download the program and install it. And then what I'm going to do now, thank you for asking that question. Again, if anyone has any questions or anything I said is unclear, please let me know so I can clarify it. So once you're able to actually go to this site, the Maxon's download website, and download the program, you're going to have two different options. You have the Maxon app, or you have the Cinema4D S24 or R24, depending on how you think about it, application. So both of these will download to your computer, and that's what you're going to use to install Cinema4D. So on the next part of the Miro board here, and again, if you don't have this up, I'm just going to post it in the chat just so it's there. I've outlined all the steps, which are pretty standard for installing a program. The first way here is using the Maxon application, and this is basically sort of, if anyone's familiar with Creative Cloud, the Adobe program in order to install applications, that's sort of what the Maxon app is. It's a similar version of that. So you'll install this sort of pre-application, you'll go through this whole process of installing it, and then it's going to ask you to sign into your Maxon account, which is what you've created on the Maxon website, and you'll log in here. So it would be your student email and whatever password you created. After that, you'll be greeted with option of all the different programs that you can install from Maxon. So obviously the one that we're focusing on is Cinema4D, but you can see here that they do have other programs, and feel free to install all of these. Like, they all come within the service fee, and they're all pretty useful. So for some of you who are more into After Effects and doing some of that work, the VFX suite would be really good to have. If any of you are doing more production work, some of these will be good for that. If some of you are more into doing particle effects, some of these like Trapco Suite might be really good for that. We won't focus on pretty much any of these for the class, but just so that you're aware of, you get all of this for free, and you're, well, near free, $2.99 service fee. But we're going to install Cinema4D, that's the specific one. So you can see here that it's asking you what version. So we would be installing the latest version, which hopefully they don't come out with a new version right now this week. So we'll all be on the same version. But yeah, so you'll go through that process, and then it's actually going to download it to your system. So that'll be the process for if you're using the Maxon app. Now, once this process all goes through, you're going to be greeted with prompts to actually install Cinema 4D directly. Now, if you don't use the Maxon app and you just get the Cinema 4D download, it's just going to bring you to this, and you're just going to go through this process here. So you're just going to skip the earlier process. So this one is pretty standard. You just have to choose where you're going to put the program on your machine. If it's not your main hard drive, you can put it on another hard drive. That's what I do sometimes. And then just let it install. And the process should be, you know, fairly quick depending on your system. But you can go through that whole process, and then at the end, you'll be greeted with a login to actually log into your Maxon account. So of course, the license for the program will only work if you've done the One Hub website where you've created, you've actually paid the service fee for the program. So that's going to be the process to actually get Cinema 4D on your computer. Again, if anyone has any questions about this, just let me know. Or if while you're doing this you have any issues, just let me know. Some of you have already reached out to me and told me you've had some things, and hopefully some of you have got it worked out, or at least you know the way to fix it in the future. But again, just to do a quick recap, you're going to create an account on the Maxon website. You're going to download Cinema 4D. You're going to go to the On the Hub website, and I will send all these links again in my follow-up email after class. But of course, if you have access to this board, if you're on here, you can click all this stuff and you can go to these pages directly. Create an account and pay the service fee for the Maxon One subscription for 6 months. And then that'll get you set up to actually install the actual program inside of your computer. So that's what's going to be due for next week. That's your main homework. It's just to install the program. Hopefully it shouldn't take you the whole week to do it. But you know, if it does, that's okay. Just let me know, and I can help you through the process. So the main thing that'll be is once you get the program installed, I would like you to post a file on Blackboard, and there's going to be an assignment that'll open up for it of any file that comes inside of the Cinema 4D program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back here to Cinema 4D. And this is going to be, you know, the scene that you normally open up to inside of Cinema 4D. I'm not going to actually model anything or move stuff around because I know not everyone knows how to do that. All I'm going to ask you to do is to find a file from the asset browser and save it and post that to a WeTransfer link and post that onto Blackboard in order for me to download your project file. Now the question is, how do you get to these files that come with Cinema 4D? So inside of Cinema 4D, there is a section called, now it's called the Asset Browser. It used to be called the Content Browser. But this browser actually gives you access to models, scenes, materials, textures that you can use inside of your projects for commercial, for personal, for any sort of, you know, thing, unless they say explicitly you can't. For free. So it's a whole bunch of resources that you can use on any projects. If you want to use them for projects in this class, that's totally cool. But this is up here at the top, and I'm going to highlight this just so that you can see. So all the way up here is the asset browser. Hopefully you can see that a little bit zoomed in there. So this is the asset browser, and once you click this open, you're going to be greeted with a window that allows you to search and to find different elements. So in here, there's a whole bunch of different stuff that you can use to learn Cinema 4D to use in your projects. So for example, we'll go into motion graphics here, and we'll go to scenes, and I think this is one that I always show. And these are all not stored on your machine. It used to be a process where you have to make sure that these were all installed on your computer, but that's no longer a thing. These actually come from the cloud. So the first time that you access any of these files, they actually download in real time to the computer. So let's see. So I don't believe I've downloaded this one. So if I download, let's do the title one. If I download this teaser title, it's going to download the file to my computer. And now this file is on my system here. It's technically stored in memory, but this is all I'm asking for, is for you to download one of these files and file save as and send me the file. So right now, this file that I just got, if I hit play, you'll see that it does this cool title animation, and this comes with Cinema 4D for free. All these are different assets that you can use. So this is one specific project. This is one that I usually always show because it looks pretty cool. And you can learn from these projects. You can use different pieces of these. So there's a whole bunch of different assets in the asset browser that you can use. These are the example scenes, but they also have, let's go to 3D objects. They got different models here. So if we go to appliances, I can download a toaster. So anyone needs a toaster prop for any of their projects, you can find that in the asset browser. They also have different characters as well. So if we go into character animation, let's get this one here. So you can see here, this is a character animation of a raccoon. This is actually used in one of the tutorials to show you how to do facial rigging and facial animation. So any of these scenes in here are totally good to use. If anyone's seen Jurassic Park, you might be interested in using this T-Rex here. And of course, you can use these to learn from. I think this is one that you can't use in commercial purposes, but pretty much all of these other ones can be used in commercial purposes for whatever you might need, or personal projects if that's what you're interested in doing. So again, for the homework, you're going to install Cinema 4D, and then you're going to actually send me any sort of, asset from the Cinema 4D's asset browser. Some of these, it might be harder to send just a material, so maybe don't send material, but any of the different objects that they have here, or any of the different sort of scenes that they have here, and all of these teach you specific things. So earlier I was mentioning Sketch and Tune. So this is a Sketch and Tune scene that I'm downloading, and some of these might take longer to download than others. And right here, if I hit the render button, you can see here that I have this toon shaded scene here with this car, which I believe it actually animates, right? Yep. So it has a whole animation to go with it. So any of these scenes are fair game to use, and I would suggest, checking a couple of these out and see, maybe there's something in here that you're particularly interested in imitating. This is sort of a low poly scene here. And you can learn a lot from these scenes just on their own. So please take the time to check out any of these scenes. But this will be the main part of what your homework will be after you get the program installed. And as I have down here, all you have to do is go to File, Save Project, and you can save it on, anywhere on your system. It might be helpful to sort of create a project or a folder for the class just so you can keep things organized. And send me that file via WeTransfer or any sort of file sharing service. It doesn't have to be WeTransfer. It could be Dropbox, it could be Google Drive. Any of those are totally cool with me. And the only other thing here is sort of sending me your specs for your computers and your internet. I think a lot of you have already done this, so if you've already done it, you get the extra credit. But if you haven't done it, it still is asked for you to do it, just so that I'm aware of your computer specs. So again, it's just asking you to download this program, run it on your machine so that I can get your specs numbers, just so I can make sure that you can have a good time in the class, or if I need to sort of tweak the projects for maybe a lower end or your specific use case. That's really the only reason why I asked for this, just to make sure everything works. And same thing with the internet speed as well. So if you've already done it, it's extra credit. Don't worry about resending it unless you want to, just to be thorough. I did put some instructions on the YouTube playlist in case you need more help with these ones specifically. But yeah, so that's going to be what your homework is for next week. Again, if anyone has any questions at all, feel free to raise your hand right now in the chat or just type yes. Oh yes. So the class, it does normally end at 5:50. Today, well, obviously we'll be ending a bit earlier because there's not as much to go over. But yeah, so normally the class, for anyone who's not aware, the class is normally 2:30 to 5:50. We won't always go that long. It kind of depends on the class. So yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. Yep. So that's going to be the homework for this week. Again, just to reiterate, the whole idea is to create the different accounts at the Maxon site and on a Hub website, and then pay the service fee for Cinema 4D for the 6-month subscription to Maxon 1, and then download and install Cinema 4D. And then after you get it installed, you can go to the asset browser, which will be once you open the program. It's the menu right up here at the top, and I'll zoom in just to make sure it's obvious. So the asset browser will be what you need to go to, and once you open that up, you'll be greeted with this sort of dialogue of all the different elements that are inside of Cinema 4D. And I went to the example scenes, but you can see that there are other places. You can also go to objects and get different things. So play around, check out what's up here. It's really just to sort of get you started and get you sort of familiar with Cinema 4D, just so you can sort of see the different type of things that you can do in here. There's cool stuff in here like BJ loops, if anyone knows about sort of those sort of type of graphics that are usually played at concerts or parties or online or Twitch streams. This one might be a bit bigger than my other ones, so some of these definitely will take longer to load than others. So just keep that in mind when you're downloading the different elements here, and sometimes it cares to have a bit of patience, and they might even freeze up your Cinema 4D, so just keep that in mind. Nothing is kind of infallible in terms of these programs that we're using here. But yeah, so again, if anyone has any questions while they're going through this process, feel free to reach out to me and send me an email. I'm always open to help as much as I can throughout the whole process. So not just this, but anytime in the course. All of my information is on the syllabus. So that should be pretty easily accessible, and everything that we've talked about today is also linked on Blackboard. So again, if you forget anything that we've talked today, or you're looking for the links or anything like that, just check out Blackboard, and it should be up there in at least a couple different places. So hopefully everything made sense to everybody. Again, thank you for coming to class today. Hopefully everyone was able to sort of get a good idea of what we're going to be doing for the semester and the different type of projects. And again, if you think of anything that you're interested in, later on that you forgot to ask during class, please feel free to email me, text me, call me, just figure out a way to get in touch with me, and we can discuss whatever, you want to about, the class in general. So again, thank you everyone for taking the time to come to class today. Looks like we're gonna definitely get out a bit early today, which is what I expected. But thank you everyone for coming to class today.